Hello and welcome. This is just a discussion video of Monster Hunter World, and the reason I'm commentating is because this particular clip I played on multiplayer with one of my friends, but um, I I guess it has to be with an option in the PlayStation recording system that maybe she needs to enable in order for her voice to go through. But even if everything turned out well, where both my voice and hers would play in this recorded clip, because I was messing around with the audio settings, I unfortunately lowered down the game volume, and my voice was the only thing that's being heard. And unfortunately, the PlayStation 4 fans kicked in, and since I'm very close to it, the entire video you can hear those fans going on. So that's just too much static noise. There's no gameplay sound almost. It's still there, but it's like barely hearable or audible, and I just didn't like that. And I was about to not even upload this video, but I decided, I don't, especially with my friend here. I call her Pui. Here she put nope for some reason. So Bri and I, we have played a lot of the 3DS Monster Hunters. Specifically, Generations is the one that we have played the most. Actually can't remember if we played the previous one, like Ultimate, or no, 4. I can't remember anymore. But I'm pretty sure we have played the most on Generations, which is a very good game. I liked it a lot. But let me first go by steps here. I mean, it's gonna be a decently long video. I have a lot of silence to cover with my voice. So let's first start with that. How did I got into Monster Hunter? So I've heard about it ever since its releases on the PlayStation. PlayStation, I think it started on PlayStation 1, and then the ones they released on the PSP. But I didn't have any of those consoles. In fact, I didn't own a console until the Wii came around, because my brothers would be the ones who buy them. They would buy GameCube, they bought the SNES, they bought the Nintendo 64. They owned those consoles, and we did end up getting a PlayStation 2, but I can't remember on if it was PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 that had Monster Hunter. But my brothers weren't interested in Monster Hunter, so I never got the chance to play that. So I finally got a Wii. I heard all about Monster Hunter Tri. I saw videos of it, and I was like, that looked really cool. There's this big monsters. There was this dude fighting it, but I never got the game. It wasn't until almost at the end of the Nintendo's Wii era, and just 4 to 5 months before the servers were shut down, as a point of reference, that I finally got that game, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of the first games that I can vividly recall spending over 300 hours on. I was actually surprised I played for that long, because it didn't felt like that. It didn't felt like I spent that much time playing this game. Now, I know there's a lot of grinding, and that's one of the more difficult things to get other people to play Monster Hunter, because when you when they're asking you questions okay, what's the story? There's really not a story there. The breaking down the story to its most minimal wording is you're just a hunter that came from somewhere. There's these monsters causing havoc to the villagers and to the environment themselves, so they have to be taken down. And then eventually an elder dragon, or basically a very powerful entity, wakes up and starts causing even more damage. And then it's up to you to basically put a stop to that elder dragon, and most of the times you just repel it, but most of them have been repelled, but sometimes you get the side quest to actually take it down. But story-wise, most of these elder dragons either you push away, at least in Monster Hunter Tri it was that way, and others you take them down. You take the big bad boss down, and you save the village, and everyone is proud of you. That sort of stuff is cool, but it's not really an in-depth story. And then you go, okay, well, how's the gameplay? Well, now we have a more like mainstream example, and it would be, and we would say it's like, oh, it's like Dark Souls. You roll, you learn the enemy's patterns, you attack it with your weapon, you have armor that will protect you, and that's how you fight it. Now, one thing I liked about Monster Hunter is that it had like the Shadow of the Colossus feel. Every monster you fought was like a boss battle, and I really like that because even in older games, I would really like the boss rush mode, where you just go through wave after wave of every single boss that you fought and trying to get to the end. You can use, well, some games will allow you to use all the resources you had, or some would challenge you that you couldn't use anything, just your basic standard weapons. So that's what mainly attracted me to Monster Hunter. The whole learning experience that, okay, this is a new monster, what does it do, or how can I fight it? And in Monster Hunter Tri, it was a very slow start for me because I didn't know anything. I didn't know the weakness, like elemental weaknesses they had, what weapons to use, how much should I grind? Should I really focus on getting this armor or weapon? Or what items can I use to make this easier on me? Things like that I didn't know. And the more I played Monster Hunter, and the more like I started to go like online and seeing other people play it, I started to learn a lot of things. And when one of my brothers, like it was a short time, but one of my brothers played the game, and I helped them out so they could get like gear quickly, and I realized how fast I did that. Like for example, one of my first difficult bosses in Monster Hunter Tri was Barret. It took me a long time to take him down because he just had so much health, and I couldn't like take him down. But when I fought him again with my knowledge experience, I took the weapon that was strong against him, a water weapon, and he died much more faster. I didn't ran out of time, or I didn't like barely beat him. I finished him in the time that was necessary, and that's seeing yourself like learning and getting to that point was a good experience for me. And ever since I've been playing Monster Hunter, like I said, I played Tri, then I think it's Ultimate or 4 Ultimate, and then Generations. Those are the ones that I have been playing. What? Okay, now I took longer than I thought going through my history, but that's mainly what I liked about Monster Hunter. Just going through bosses, getting these amazingly designed armors and weapons, all those things. So, okay. Now, what Monster Hunter World is doing new is it's changing a lot of things. It's gonna be weird. I mean, I already adapted because thankfully I played Tri. But going to Monster Hunter World is like, oh man, where's my play styles or weapon styles actually, or the supers? Those have been removed. And in a way, I mean, I'm okay with those. I started to hear a lot of people complaining about them, even though they were optional. You can just like take them away, or there's this like specific like play style that it's just like the original ones. So there was nothing really lost. My only gripe is that with all those like fighting styles or weapon styles, the greatsword could, I mean, the insect glaive is awesome because it's the one that you can jump, and you can attack enemies by jumping. That's what like made that weapon unique. In Generations, it allowed for every other weapon to have that trait too, where you can jump. And I love using the greatsword with the jumping ability. But now that's gone, and I guess that the reason that's gone is so that people can can use the insect glaive as the jumping weapon if they want to do that. Because that's another thing about Monster Hunter. The weapons, aside from coming a variety, sometimes they work best on certain enemies. For example, I wouldn't use a great sword on Rathalos because it's too slow and he moves a lot. Instead, I would use something like the switch axe, because that has a longer reach and is faster. And, I don't have to go through so many frames of animations just to hit him. So things like that. There's more examples where every weapon you can use to defeat any monster, but there's certain weapons that just work better. aside from stats and element things. And aside from that, that's also a couple of things that are changing. Skills on armors. Usually you would require armors or talismans to have like a point system. So if you have an armor that gives you 3 points on attack, that's great, but you need 10 to actually activate an attack boost. And then that attack boost skill has more like incrementing levels, like 10 points, 15 points, 20, and it gives you more bonuses. This time around they just decided to keep it simple. No longer do you need 10 points, it's just 1 point. But that 1 point is already like level 1. Get another piece with another maybe 1 point and you got level 2. And so on and so forth. Now we got some basic items on the beta, so it's hard to tell how they're going to be modified, or if they can be modified, or how like higher ranking armor, how many points will those give. So I'm curious to that. I'm glad it's a little bit more simple now. It's a lot more manageable, just to like immediately see what an armor is giving you, instead of having to go through basically doing math and go like, okay, this gives me 3, this gives me 7. If I put a gem on it, on one of the slots, which allows you to boost those skill points, then I'll have more. I'll have to sacrifice this, and sometimes you would have points on skills you don't need, but the armor has them anyway. So, or there's also like negative points. And speaking about armors, I noticed that there's no like gunner armor. That's one of the things that there's a Blade Master, and I think it's just called Gunner. Oh, I forgot the name. I never play as Gunner because of that. Because all of them, because materials is very hard to get to begin with, so you will have to make a choice. Do I wanna be a sword user or a gun user? Because the armors would have different like skills and different looks depending on which of those armor sets you pick. And I love the greatsword, and I never got used to the gunner weapons, so I never tried those weapons because it was a pain in the butt. That getting the necessary materials is so hard, and then on top of that I have to get them twice again in order to make a proper like gunner armor. But this time I do hope they got like rid of that, so that any armor you make works for both of them. Now this might change. I still think there's gonna be a gunner variant, because some skills are specific to those, like if you're whenever a Blade Master or a gunner. So it'll depend how they manage that. It's also possible they can get rid of that by just allowing modifications both on the guns and how you level up the weapons. So there's still a lot of things. There's been people that already played the game for a good amount of time, and they're providing information that they're allowed to say. And I know the time's almost up here, so I'm just gonna quickly hit on one of those points. One of the changes they also made is how quests are handled. Sometimes you would have to like gather a certain amount of items. They were called gathering quests. And although I like those because you like experience the land without no worries of time limit or a specific monster to hunt, you could already do that just by going on free roam. So those quests just end up becoming more tedious as I kept playing the game series. Now this time around they have been changed. They're no longer like main quests. Now they're like sub quests that you can have like active while you do any of the other main quests, which are to hunt monsters. There's a lot more emphasis on exploring this time around. You need to go out and actually find the camps, explore and fill up the map. So there's a lot of changes to Monster Hunter World, and I can't wait to play it on January once it launches. I'll probably get it on February though. So there's quite a lot more I wanted to say, but I think this is a pretty good amount of like explanations. I went through my passion for the game. I went through some of the changes they made, some things that have been removed, which I'll miss, but I can get over it. Monster Hunter is always changing. how you use the weapons, what the mechanics are. But in the end, it's still an enjoyable game, and I can't wait to play this game because it it just did so many things that I have been waiting for them to do for years. Um, Changing how they use healing items, especially that changing how you use items. Healing items are faster. You can at least move. They're still slow, but you can like modify that. Uh, just a bunch of things. I don't want to go any more into details like that. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care and have fun playing. Lates.